Church is supposed to be a place that brings people together, but when it comes to the future of the Glenbrook Community Center, the city of Stamford and its residents couldn't be more divided. News 12 Connecticut's Justin DeVellis with the story.
Inside Union Memorial Church, the pews were packed, but instead of the usual prayers, people were throwing up possibilities for the future of 35 Crescent Street.
They want to try and repurpose it for some reason, and I don't understand why.
In this house of worship,
it's more needed now, I think, than it's ever been in all the time I've been here.
Things got heated.
Yeah, this is why we're here.
The former Glenbrook Community Center has been closed since the COVID pandemic.
And if you speak to anybody in basically on the east side who grew up here, the community center has been a part of their life.
2 years ago, Stamford Mayor Caroline Simmons proposed a plan that would have turned the site into affordable housing, but eventually scrapped it after the public pushed back.
So far, with the last couple of dealings we've had with the city on this building have run into dead ends. And I'm hoping this is not another one.
The city says it hopes to find a solution that aligns with the community's needs while ensuring long-term financial sustainability for the project.
The east side of Stamford is in desperate need of a place where the community can coalesce, where there can be affordable services for the residents on the east side, and it's just not there right now, and it needs to be.
Now, the city plans on having more of these meetings in the coming months. It hopes to have the finalized plans for the project this summer. In Stamford, I'm Justin DeVellis, News 12 Connecticut.
Some other proposed options include turning the site into a healthcare and wellness center, a senior living community, or even an eco-friendly green space.
One interesting thing I want to read, it's just one sentence. It's from the history of Glenbrook. Now listen to this. By 1920, Glenbrook had grown to a community of 1,270, according to that year's census, including 50 living and still largely undeveloped areas of the city limits of Stamford. 1,270. 1920, here we are, 100 years later. Interesting, isn't it? But that's life too, right? Population in life continues to grow and move forward, so that's a good thing. So kind of think of it like that, I guess you will. So if you would, before we turn over to Thomas, let's, if you incline, if you could please participate and bow our heads and for a moment of prayer. God of hope, you call us time and time again to remove ourselves from our selfish selves and focus instead on the freedom of peace and the power of love. You remind us of the joy of sharing. You strengthen what is weak. You enrich the poor and the outcast. You give hope to those who might live in fear. Look upon our needs this evening. Let us be grateful for the good news of salvation. Let us remain faithful in our good works and community service. And let us never stop spreading the gospel of love your neighbor as yourself. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, let's go ahead and turn over to BFJ. Thomas?
Oh, one more thing.
Okay.
I do have here, we have a food bank. And the churches, they dropped off almost 170 pounds of food today. But I do have some more bags that would love to go home with someone tonight and be able to give to the food bank, which is on Glenbrook Road. So, if you would like a bag at some point tonight, I'm going to put them right over there. Please grab them, support our neighborhood, and take one into the food bank. Let's see if we can match that, all right? All right. Just the last day, fire exits, because we got a lot of people here. We will, if anything was to happen, there. The bathrooms are in the back, you said. So just in case. All right, so let's get this started. My name is Thomas Madden. I am with BFJ Planning. I have with me tonight Evan McCourty and Suzanne Goldberg right here. The three of us will be giving the presentation tonight. to really start to kick off this whole procedure of looking at 35 Crescent Street. What we're going to do is just go through some introductions tonight. I will be asking our steering committee who's here tonight to be able to stand up. We do have some representatives as well from the surrounding districts that are here as well. They can stand up if they'd like when we do introductions. We're going to go through really the planning purpose of this project. We are starting just at square one. Okay, this is the first night of square one planning this project. Suzanne and Evan are going to go through a little bit of background information on understanding the community. Well, why is that important? It's important because if we and when the city issues an RFP, you've got to have all that background information to give a complete understanding to whoever's responding to that RFP. So they know the type of neighborhood is here, the incomes, all the assets, everything else. We're going to go through several potential development options. Now, none of these options are set in stone yet. All we're doing is trying to spur ideas, and I have on Station 2 over there, there are 6 development options that we put up. However, we're not limited to those. Station 3 allows us to say, okay, if you've got something that you would like to see, or a different idea that you would like us to explore over the next couple of months, and we can go out and reach out to people, like I was given one tonight, to convert it to a medical senior daycare facility from Fern, and Jesse getting partners and everything else, which we will include. We want to include that as potential development options. I'm going to go through next steps, and then we're going to have a quick coffee break. We were originally going to go downstairs and do coffee, but we have up here. Please don't spill anything in the session. We'll be here clean until midnight. Right? But Going to the Light was nice enough, they donated the coffee and the donuts to me. If there is time at the end, okay, because we have a very packed agenda here, we may have about 10 minutes where we can reconvene at the end and do a little bit of questions and answers. But ideally what we have is steering committee members who are going to be around the board at the end of the meeting here. That's a great time to ask them some of the questions, okay? And then as well, for all of our stages when we go through them, and I think this is actually key, I always have at these public meetings, they go, Thomas, I have a great idea. This is what you should do. And I will grab that sticky and I will throw it back at you and go, awesome, write it down and put it on the board for me. Because that is the only way we have a written record. If you tell me what it is, I can tell you by 9:15 tomorrow morning, or actually probably after I referee up the Twin Rings at 10:30 tonight, I will have forgotten it. Okay, so we need you to write this down. So what we're going to do is just quickly introduce the steering committee. Basically, we have Richard Freeman. He was here. I saw him right there. Nina Sherwood. I saw her earlier. She was here. Jessica Glenbrook. She was here, right over there. Matt Jonas is down up in front, our Director of Operations. Gene Freeman, who's one of our special assistants. Reverend Wilton Hill is also here. And Evelyn Simpson is the president of the Glenbrook Neighborhood Association. Okay? So we have a very diverse steering committee from all parts of the area. Consulting team is Frank Fish, who's principal in charge. He had been at a meeting, so he was unable to come tonight. Myself, Thomas Madden, I'm the project manager for this. Yes, you may recognize my name. I am the former director of economic development for the city of Stanford. I also live in Glenbrook at 504 Glenbrook. Okay. So we have Suzanne Goldberg, who we introduced earlier, and Kevin Cohen. So that's our steering committee. Really what we're doing tonight and what we're going to be doing with this presentation, because it is being recorded, we are going to be moving back and forth between English and Spanish. We think this is very important, especially with the demographics in the community. And we want to make sure we touch all parts of this neighborhood and that study area to make sure that everybody's being included and all voices are being heard. So what is our purpose for tonight? Really, it's identifying the viable uses for 35 Crescent Street that align with community needs but also ensure long-term financial sustainability for that project. We've been asked to facilitate community sessions to gather input and develop that vision that will lead up into an RFP by summarizing the findings and engaging with both the city leadership but also all the stakeholders. In several months from now, we may have an RFP and we're going to manage that process for the redevelopment plan that fulfills really that established criteria that was set out in that RFP. As I said, what we're doing is we're starting from square one today. This is fresh start. There's nothing on the table for this site, okay? And I want to make sure this is clear to everybody in here. There's nothing on this site. As far as I'm concerned, it's a blank canvas. Now we get to go create a beautiful piece of art on this. So I'll turn it over to Evan.
Hola, bienvenidos y gracias por atender en este primer taller público del proceso Reimagine 35 Crescent Street. Estamos hoy restableciendo el proceso de determinación del desarrollo de 35 Crescent. Hoy estamos hablando de 4 propósitos planificatorios del proyecto. Primero, vamos a identificar los usos viables para el antiguo 35 Crescent Street que se alinean con las necesidades de la comunidad y aseguran la sostenibilidad financiera a largo plazo. Segundo, vamos a presentar sesiones comunitarias para recopilar opiniones y desarrollar una visión. Tercer, vamos a resumir los hallazgos y colaborar con el liderazgo de la ciudad y las partes interesadas. Y finalmente vamos a gestionar el proceso de RFP para seleccionar un plan de desarrollo que cumpla con los criterios establecidos en este proceso.
So here's our draft project timeline. We basically started in October. That sort of orange square you see right there, that is our first portion. That is us tonight. During that time period, we're going to be taking all of your comments and writing them down and have you write them down on these stations, and that is where you're going to be able to put all your comments. We will then, over the next couple of months, synthesize all those comments and bring it back to the steering committee in a document that says, this is what we've heard. Okay? From there, we will then hopefully do another meeting.
Higher concentration, again, in the north towards Springdale, as well as Belltown, and some of that can be attributed to new rentals, a certain type of market there in terms of housing units. And lastly, household income. The darkest blue are the areas with the highest amount of average household income, and you can see there is an area to the west of the study area in the Strawberry Hill and Belltown area that is that darker blue, indicating a higher median household income in that area.
Aquí podemos ver datos sobre la población y la demografía para el código 06906. Específicamente tenemos población a la izquierda en total, con los áreas más oscuros con más personas y las áreas más amarillo con menos personas. En el medio podemos ver el porcentaje de la población de edad 25 a 44 y a la derecha podemos ver el ingreso medio que es variante en Glenbrook.
We also know that a large portion of the population identifies as Hispanic or Latino, so we put on the map to the left a concentration of people that are Hispanic or Latino in the area, and you can see the darkest pinks are the areas with the highest concentration, and you can see to the south of the study area towards the east side and the cove are there darker areas of pink. On the right, we also wanted to show some of the country of origin of people in the zip code in the area, and the percentage of the population of the largest country of origin is Guatemala with 41%. Then there's Colombia, Puerto Rico, Peru, Ecuador, and Honduras, and they all make up part of the Spanish-speaking Hispanic or Latino population in the zip code.
Es muy importante para nosotros conocer a la población latino acá en Glenbrook. Y a la izquierda puedes ver que en porciones del área del estudio hay casi 50% de la población latina. A la derecha podemos ver el origen de los latinos en este área y podemos ver que la mayoría son guatemaltecos, colombianos o puertorriqueños.
This is looking at housing and living arrangements over the past approximately 10 years or so. You can see there's been an increase in the median value of housing units from 2012, around 446,000, up to 557,000 in 2022. Within housing tenure, there's been a decrease in the amount of owner-occupied units and an increase in the amount of renter-occupied units, so that indicates an overall trend towards rentership within the area.
También estudiamos los datos sobre la vivienda y los arreglos de vida en Glenbrook. El valor de las viviendas en Glenbrook está mejorando y al mismo tiempo hay más personas alquilando mientras hay menos personas propietando en su vivienda.
And aligned with what we were discussing before in terms of the median home value, the household income has also increased about $10,000 from $86,000 in 2012 to $96,000 in 2022.
El medio ingreso por cada vivienda es aumentando generalmente, pero puedes ver a la derecha que los ingresos están variables en cuanto.
So now moving on to some of the more physical built environment attributes of the area. On the left, you can see a land use map, and everything you see in light yellow is low density single family, and everything you can see in that brighter yellow is low density multifamily. So much of the zip code, much of the area is residential. I wanted to point out some other notable parcels, including the commercial neighborhood business, which is right around 35 Crescent, as well as industrial areas to the north and south of the project site. In terms of zoning, pretty similar. There's a large expanse of single family. Village commercial also surrounds the project site at 35 Crescent. And then there's additionally some industrial to the north and south of the project site.
Estos mapas enseñamos el uso del suelo y zonificación en Glenbrook. La mayoría es residencial, con lugares para comercios en Hook Street y cerca de la estación. También hay lugares para industria que puedes ver en gris en los mapas de los.
So the last aspects we're looking at this point in terms of understanding the community and the physical environment. On the left, you can see some areas of recent development. This includes 159 Colonial Road, Glenbrook Crossing, 498 Glenbrook Road, and Glenbrook Commons, which represent new development in the area. On the right are just some community assets that I'm sure you have more that you can share with us. This is just a first pass at it, and we're looking at schools, religious institutions, parks, child care services, and this is important to understand that with the RFP, whoever responds to it, it's important to know what assets are already there and what the community center can build off of.
One community center is.
En esta diapositiva puedes ver desarrollo recientemente y activos comunitarios como escuelas, iglesias y parques.
First off, I see people taking pictures, okay? At the bottom, it's on the City of Stanford website, 35 Crescent Street. This presentation will be up there tomorrow. Okay, so you can download it tomorrow. We're not hiding anything. We had the city make a website for this. Joe is be kind enough to actually videotape this. As soon as he has that, we will be putting that link up to be able to rewatch this meeting tonight. So just in case, I don't want people missing anything, but we'll have all this stuff ready for it. Okay? We're moving over to a little bit more our project approach. And again, this is what I talked about at the beginning, was the potential for redevelopment options. And so we came up with several of them to start really the creative juices flowing in the thinking. So one of them is a community cultural center to sort of revitalize the place, the modern center for programming, You know, we thought about potential partnerships, building a community, for instance, library, Kiwanis Club, Stanford Partnership, Kids Helping Kids. And it would be something along the lines of sort of featuring arts, craft, music, dance, community meeting, cultural events, small museum. That is one of our options tonight. When you start to think about that, I want you to think about if you like it or not, go to the tag along our bar there, cool hot. But also, how do we finance that? If we were to make this another community cultural center, what partners are we missing? Who do we need to reach out to? And how do we actually make it viable? Another option is mixed-use development, transform the property into a sort of a residential or commercial spaces. Potential partners, again, we looked at Stanford or Spinnaker Real Estate Partners, Nazero, Summit Development. You know, it could feature affordable housing, it could feature retail, cafe, office spaces, public plaza in there, garden. Again, we want you to start thinking about that. How do we develop that concept? And how do we make that financially feasible, and what partners do we have?
Antes de esta reunión, estudiamos usos potenciales de redesarrollo en 35 Crescent. Estas son simplemente ideas y queremos que ustedes participan hoy para decir si te gustas o no te gustas estas ideas. También queremos que ustedes consideren otras ideas para este espacio con un foco en los usos que pueden ser autosuficientes en el futuro. La primera opción es un centro comunitario y cultural. Podemos revitalizar como un centro moderno para programas comunitarios y eventos culturales. Tenemos una lista de socios potenciales aquí y las características de un centro comunitario serán artes y manualidades, música, danza, reuniones comunitarias, eventos culturales o potencialmente un pequeño museo. También podemos hacer un desarrollo de uso mixto aquí, transformando la propiedad en espacios residenciales y comerciales. También tenemos una lista de socios potenciales y las características de desarrollo de uso mixto podrían ser viviendas asequibles, tiendas, cafeterías, oficinas, una plaza pública o un jardín.
Another option we're looking at, Education Innovation Hub for this. So it's really lifelong co-working entrepreneurship. This is very similar to Old Town Hall. If you remember, we did have the Stanford Innovation Center inside there. Is this something that we maybe want here? Again, potential partners, Stanford Partnership, Synchrony, UConn, Engineering Ambassadors, Advanced CT, Stanford Public Schools. Again, can we create classrooms, labs, co-working spaces, business incubation in the building itself? And then another option is sort of healthcare and wellness centers. So again, a comprehensive center for healthcare and wellness. We look at potential partners, similar to like the Vita Health District they have around the Stanford Hospital. You have Optimus Health, Stanford, Yale New Haven Health. Does it have primary care in there, dental, mental health, physical therapy, wellness programs? Is that something that would work inside the building? Again, we want you to sort of think about it.
Aquí son dos más opciones. Primeramente, un centro educativo y innovador. Podemos crear el centro para el aprendizaje continuo, el coworking y el emprendimiento. Los socios potenciales son Stanford Partnerships, incluyendo UConn Engineering Ambassadors, Advanced Connecticut, y las escuelas públicas de Stanford. Y las características de este son aulas, laboratorios, espacios de coworking, incubadoras de negocios. Próximamente, posiblemente tenemos un centro de salud y bienestar. Socios potenciales incluyen Vita Health y Wellness Partnership, Optimus Healthcare, Stanford Health. Y las características de un centro de salud son atención primaria, dental, salud mental, fisioterapia o programas de bienestar.
Would everybody in favor of the Glenbrook Community Center reopening, please stand up and let these people.
We are not doing that. No, stop. We are
Stand
not
up.
doing that.
This is why we're here.
No, sorry.
We are not doing it here. The mayor refused to listen to us 2 years ago.
Please sit down. You will have time to speak and to put your comments on the board. And that is how we're running this meeting tonight. Okay? If you do not like that,
Point of parliamentary procedure.
yes, thank you very much.
Yes. We have a right to speak.
I am running this meeting right now. You will have the opportunity to speak.
You're running the mayor's conditions down our throats.
No, I'm not. We're going to different options right now. But what we want you to do is to remain civil.
I'm civil. I've been working for the community for years.
So I want you, in the end, you're going to let me finish my presentation, please.
Finish it.
And then,
Hurry up because we're getting bored.
that's fine. If you want, I can take you over to Stanford Twin Rings, I'll put you in the penalty box.
Funny, I worked the
So
penalty
there we
box.
go. So the next one is senior living community as a potential. Again, senior living community with various levels of care. The picture we have in here that was done in London, similar type of building. Potential partners, Edge Hill Senior Living Community, Mosaic Concierge Living, Charter Oak, and again, independent assisted living, memory care, and a wellness type center. And then lastly, could it possibly be a green space? So eco-friendly green space, permanent surfaces, rain gardens, to support the environment.
Okay, estas son las últimas dos opciones que nosotros tenemos, pero no se puede ir que piensas digo. Primeramente, una comunidad de vivienda para personas mayores. Podemos establecer una comunidad con varios niveles de cuidado. Hay muchos socios potenciales y las características de comunidad independiente y asistada, cuidado de la memoria, comedor y actividades sociales. Y finalmente, posiblemente tener un espacio verde con áreas verdes ecológicas, con superficies permeables y jardines de lluvia para apoyar el medio ambiente.
So part of our next steps right now, and this is what we're sort of doing tonight, is after tonight we'll actually launch a survey through the city's website to gather additional input on any of the redevelopment options that are sort of generated from here tonight to get feedback and comment. From that, we'll develop our recommendations based on all of the comments that we have produced. All of these documents will be on the city website. I am a big person who believes sunshine on everything. Nothing should be done in the dark. So you will see all those documents up on that city website. That's why I asked for that. We're going to share the recommendations and gather community feedback at the public workshop in sort of late January 2025. We're going to be doing after we finish it tonight.
Posiblemente estás pensando que están los próximos pasos en este proceso. Junto con esta reunión vamos a organizar una encuesta para recopilar opiniones sobre las opciones de desarrollo propuestas. Después vamos a desarrollar recomendaciones para la ciudad y finalmente vamos a compartir recomendaciones y a recopilar comentarios de la comunidad en el taller público número 2 a finales de enero en 2025.
So what we're going to end up doing now is we're going to take a quick coffee break because now we've given you a whole pile of information to think about. What we want you to do is we're going to have Susan, Evan, and myself will be stationed around here along with some of the steering committee members. The key for this is we need you to write this down on the sticky notes, okay? And we need to post that. Every comment that is written down here tonight will be put forward, okay? We'll put into a document, you'll see it up on the website. We are not basically stretching these things out and throwing them onto the side, okay? We have to do this properly and take into everybody's voice must be heard in this. So our first station over here is really talking about our community needs and priority, and that's talking a little bit about the mapping and what our assets are within the community, but also what do you want to see within the community, okay? That's that station right there. We have a bunch of prompt questions. We'll go through and you'll be able to prompt and think about writing that stuff down. Station 2 is our redevelopment concepts, just the sort of 6 you put up there. Again, we have temperature gauge on there. We want to know if you like it or don't like it. But the key for these redevelopment concepts, again, I have some prompt questions. We want you to answer those questions for us. If you like this concept or that concept, that's great, okay? How do we finance it and what partners do we need to make that project successful? It's no sense putting $2 million to rehab a building and have it fail, okay? I want this project to be successful because I live in this team, okay? And I want to make that very clear. It has to be successful. The last one is Station 3, which is the community space ideas and design concepts. So again, you don't like any of the 6 over there that we sort of brought up for consideration? Tell us on Station 3, write it down. And I've already got one, this is number 7 right here. I've already got one that we can actually start to look at and use. So again, I want this to be a productive part of the meeting tonight, and I need you to sort of get those creative juices flowing, and so we can start to work through all the different options. Thank you.
Ya queremos escuchar sus ideas. Vamos a abrir la reunión para permitirse visitar a cada estación que puedes ver en las salas acá. Tenemos 3 estaciones. Primero, las necesidades y prioridades de la comunidad. Segundo, los conceptos de desarrollo que hemos hablado hoy día. Y finalmente, las ideas para espacios comunitarios y conceptos de diseño. Si quieres hablar con alguien en español, puedes encontrarme. Voy a estar acá en número 1. Y gracias a todos. Thank you everybody for listening to our presentation.
With that, we'll take 5 minutes, get some coffee, and we'll start moving around the room. Thank you. So the DOT system is, we gave you 6 different concepts just to consider right now. We want to know each of those different concepts. If it's cold, you don't like it. If it's hot, you like it. And so that way, as we start to look at potential partners that are out there, we can go to them and say, listen, Glenbrook community, the neighborhood, really wants these type of programming to happen. All right? So if it's under the mixed use category, we can go back to developers and say, okay, this is something that you could bring in. If we go back and look at community center stuff, programming, who are our partners on that? Is there enough to make the project sustainable in their eyes to be able to do something better? So again, that's what I was talking about. You know, when I threw out like the $2 million, what I'm saying is, I'm an investor, I go into the community center, I put $2 million in there, and it flops. Okay? I just put $2 million into a project that didn't work. I need to be able to make sure that this works. So if we have all of the community supporting the different options that are out there, or the programming elements that they're looking for, it makes it much easier for them when they actually do a perform-up and actually figure out what does it cost for my heating, my lighting, you know, my HVAC system, gas, sewer, rent, all that stuff. Can I make enough money to keep the building running? Okay? Do I have to get additional grants? And if the programming is different types of programming that is out there, there's different grants that are out there. But we don't know what to go for unless we hear from the community and say, this is exactly what we need within the community, and we're going to stand here and we're going to support this as a community. But if we don't have that and everybody's telling me, I just want this, like I see a lot of comments, community center. Community center doesn't mean anything. The community center aspect is what we're looking for, is the programming. That's what makes the community center. All the programming and the people that use the building make a community center, hence the term community. So that's what we're trying to build out today, is to figure that out from everybody. So again, that's why when we're going to take a few more questions here, but we're going to be, I want you to go back and think about this and say, okay, maybe there's something else I can add into this. From there, we'll give you an additional opportunity to do a survey. to give us additional feedback on this. And then from there, we will go back to our committee and say, this is what we're hearing, this is what the community wants, and this is it financially feasible with departments that we can maybe reach out to and see if they want to be participating in this. And so that when it goes time to actually issue an RFP, we've got a solid RFP that people will actually respond back to. Okay? I don't want to issue an RFP that nobody responds back to, because then, as a taxpayer here in Stamford, we just wasted the money that paid me to come do all this stuff. I don't want to do that. So, all right.
Where are the dots? I'm sorry.
I have more dots right here.
Can we write in same as it was when it was closed?
What does that mean?
Same program functions it has when it was closed.
Write in the programs. What programs are there?
Daycare programs, senior
Write that down.
programs.
Did you write that
12-step
down?
meetings.
Did you write that down?
Can't we just put down same as when it was closed?
I don't know what that is. Unless you write it down and put down all the programs that were there before.
That's on all our flyers that we put up all over the communities.
Okay, I don't have that flyer, but I need it to be put on this because this is public record. Okay? I need you to write it on the boards. This is why I keep telling you, don't think about it in your mind and don't just put your hand up and say, I want this program, this program, this program. You must write it down. It's very, very important. And I keep stressing that. So, all right. Okay, wait. I'm going to recognize everybody one at a time. I'm going to recognize everybody one at a time, and you'll be able to ask a question, okay? So, sir, are you finished? Because you had your hand up and I acknowledged you as your first person to ask a question, and you were asking about...
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Why was $40,000 spent on a consultant without going through the board of representatives by the mayor and executive authority? And why did she totally ignore what we told her 2 years ago?
I can't answer that. That is, you'll have to ask the administration on that. So. Okay? All right, we're going to go here, the gentleman, and then we'll work our way to the back. I want to do this in an orderly fashion.
I just wanted you to talk again about the survey that will also be available online for people who weren't here tonight, or for additional information.
So we will be developing a survey based upon the information that we are receiving here tonight, because there may have been concepts that were just introduced tonight. And so people who didn't show up, we want to be able to at least give them a chance to vote on that or to talk about that and to give us input in that. So we figured that is the fairest way to do this. We'll again announce that to you. You've given us your email address. On that sign-in sheet, we will go out through all of the Glenbrook Neighborhood Association, Springdale Neighborhood Association, Facebook, Nextdoor. I will post it all on that. Plus, it will be on the government city's website at stanfordct.gov, 35 Crescent. All of the information, like I said, from tonight and everything else, will be put on that website. Anytime we put something new on that website, I'm telling Evelyn and everybody else, the Glenbrook Neighborhood Association, and anybody who's signed up tonight, you will get an email from us stating that we have new information for you to go take a look at. All right? All right. Gentlemen, the beige, and then I'm going to go to you, sir, in the blue next. Okay?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
How long did it take you to prepare all this? Because it's a very professional job. Which you're doing.
Well, it takes us a while to do this. This is not something you throw together in 3 to 4 hours. It takes a lot of work because we had to work with the steering committee first, and then we had to work through all the different concepts, produce the PowerPoints, get the website ready, write all of the emails, the social media, the press release, all that stuff.
Now, did you approach the city, or did the city approach you?
The city issued an RFP in which we responded to. We were one of, I think, 4 companies that responded to it, and we were selected.
And what department of the city paid for it?
That I don't know.
Well, I got a chance from somebody.
Well, I give it to Eric Larson, who's the purchasing coordinator, so I submit the billing to him.
That's one way of doing it, because I'm sure everybody in here is a taxpayer.
Yep.
Okay? And we'd like to know how our money's spent sometime.
I can't answer that question. All I can do is, I responded to an RFP, we were awarded the contract.
Possibly answer, if somebody has it, okay?
We can find out.
Yeah, well, we'll take that question, we'll answer that, and we'll put it up on the website for you. The RFP is listed through the newspaper, the state site, where everything gets listed, pretty much all the RFPs under Secure Aware. All right. Gentleman in the blue.
Thank you, Mr. Matt. My name's Sean Boulder. I'm actually a representative in this district in Ward 15 right now. I think it's very important to acknowledge in the room some of the frustration. A lot of you, I recognize your faces as being involved 2 years ago in trying to muster a lot of support to tell the mayor that we wanted the community center back. And I'm not just speaking as a representative. All 4 of my kids went to the preschool there because at the time when I was a brand new police officer, my wife at the time and I could not afford to send 4 of our kids to a full blown preschool, and Glenbrook was the only option that we could afford. Both as public servants, because she was a school teacher and continues to be a school teacher in the city. So I'm very, very connected to the city, very caring about the city. I'm a native here. And I just want to acknowledge, I hear the frustration in the room. Mr. Madden, I think part of the problem is that 2 years ago, the administration was presented with a petition of over 1,100 signatures from people in the area, mostly. I know because I was one of the people that knocked on hundreds and hundreds of doors to help collect those signatures. And it just seems that it was never acknowledged properly back to the community. And so to start this process all over again 2 years from now, while you're the one that's not spearheading this, and I'm sorry you might be catching some of the brunt of the frustration, that's why it's happening. I know you're familiar with it, with being part of the past administration, how these things go, but I just want to let people know. Whether you agree with the community center, staying community center or not, I think it's important to acknowledge that the people that put a lot of hard time working with this. The administration was truly interested in the first place of getting community impact. I think they would have done that from the get-go. Then they waited 2 years, did nothing, and now they're starting the whole thing over again. So people are very, very frustrated about that. I know my opinion hasn't changed. I know a lot of people's opinion hasn't changed. And I think part of the reason why you're not getting a lot of response on the work, maybe only half the response to people that are in this room, is because they're upset. And another thing that I'd like to point out, while I respect and know everybody that's on that steering panel, I have to say out of respect for my constituents and the people that I represent to sign that petition, that the vast majority of the people on that steering committee were not in favor of keeping the Glenbrook Community Center. In fact, one of them has publicly stated they will never fund public funding for the community center, and that person was placed on this steering committee. And I think if they wanted to have a steering committee that was more robust, it would at least be a 50-50 representation. It's not hard to know who supports it and who doesn't. These opinions have been made very clear in the Board of Reps. And in fact, you have the representative, one of the representatives in this room, Representative Strain, I don't know where she's sitting right now. She singularly ran her campaign on this issue and won on that issue, and the community center is directly in her district. But it always seems like a deaf ear is being turned to that. There was overwhelming support for it, and it's being dismissive. So you are going to run into that frustration. These people, I can tell you right now, whether I'm here or not, are not going anywhere. They feel strongly about this community institution. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So the lady in the white and the glasses in the back, who was next, the gentleman behind her, then I'm going to come back up here to you, sir. I have the gentleman in the jacket right there, the man right there, and then we'll go right here, okay?
Thank you. So I'm Gina Calabrese. I live in the Cove, which shares a border with Glenbrook or adjacent neighborhoods, and we also share some district reps. As a resident of the Cove, I use Glenbrook a lot. I go to Lebanese, I go to patronize businesses there, right? We're adjacent. My son went to the after-school program there at the community center for a year. It's a building I've always thought
So if you've already started putting programming and stuff like that on there, as you elegantly said, that is awesome. That helps me out immensely in being able to look at this and actually draft stuff up. But again, I was, like I said, when I was referring to, right, you know, just community center, that doesn't help me. But what you said helps me out immensely. That's constructive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. I appreciate it. My name is Mark Morash. I grew up on Toledo Drive. I went to start school. In between there and there, I can't tell you how many days myself and my friends spent in that community center, either because we didn't want to go home or because we didn't feel safe going home. And that's one of the things that we forget, that a safe space for our children is important. But that's not the point of my comment. You say that we're here with a blank slate, a tabula rasa, no preconceived notions. And I think the reason I'm asking this is because some of the frustration and maybe some of the lack of comments is because a lot of folks feel like this has already been decided. As Representative Boger said, we were here 2 years ago. Why were we not listened to then? But you say we're coming from a blank slate, but when you're standing up there and you're going through the 6 ideas, you're giving us the names of possible partners for all of these things. So it sounds to me like the city's already done legwork, and yet when we talk about the community center, it's about where is the money going to come from. So it feels, just from your own language, that we're actually not starting from a blank slate. And I mean, whether or not we should be from a blank slate because the community center's been there for 100 years. But my question is this, and because I'd like to have this on the public record, is, in my estimation, there's 2 parts that we're developing if that were to be the community center. One, yes, is the ongoing, and one is obviously the revitalization of the building. And the state of Connecticut, over the last 3 years, has had the Connecticut Communities Challenge Round. It had 3 rounds of it. And a number of folks spoke with them, and absolutely, the revitalization of a community center is viable under that grant process. Now, the city of Stamford got $2.5 million through this grant to create on Pacific Street a year-round beer garden, a food truck lot, an authentic German beer hall, coffee shop, social co-working space. That's the language of what was awarded. Stanford also got $2.7 million to do housing at Zero Walton Place and 8 Prospect Street. But when approached with applying for this grant, this giant grant that was awarded $100 million to revitalize things like community centers, Mayor Simmons said she would not apply to that grant program. Can you assure the people here that if we're going to go the route of a community center, if there is heat on the map for the community center, that it will not be the mayor who says, I will not apply for this grant money when it is there to be had? Where is she?
Can I answer the question, please? Sure. Thank you. So, part of that grant, you can have a city apply for it, you can have a nonprofit apply for it. That's part of when you look at the actual people who can apply. You also need a letter from the district representative supporting that project for anything that goes on as well at that site for anything. So when you talk about the Pacific Street, they had matching money to match that portion of the grant to be able to get that 2.1 or whatever million dollars plus. This is what we're looking at here. So say if we find out in the end that we do need to get some grants, we have to look at this financially and say, okay, do we have enough income coming in through the programming that we're listing up here tonight and with our partners? And those partners are ones that I actually started researching because I wanted to sort of say, okay, if we brainstorm partners and who could it be possible people that can help run that center, we want to be able to reach out to them right away to say that there's programming available, that we have the community support of that. And if that is the case, then if the city so chooses, they could then apply for it, or you would have a nonprofit apply for it.
Just, if I may,
Yeah.
the problem with that is that because the city owns the building, a nonprofit cannot apply for the grant without the city's blessing. So the same question persists of, can we be assured that the city would not block that grant process?
Well, the city can, if you want, sell that building to the nonprofit.
The city has stated before, again, 2 years ago.
Like I said, this is why we're at square one, trying to explore all of these questions that you're asking. We are trying to find answers for on every single step here and the what ifs. So if we move forward with a grant application, what are my what ifs on who my partners are, how the matching granting works, and how do we have a feasible plan that actually works to make that building sustainable. So we have to work through this process, and it is a long, tedious process. It's not like just throwing out an RFP and say, come develop this site. Again, I live in this community. I want this site to be successful. So if we are going down a pathway of, say, community center that mixes in senior living or wellness and a bunch of other things, we have to have that programming in place and potential people to rent space and a system that actually is going to help run that building to make sure that we have that grant application as a viable grant application back to the state and get that support. Now, we can submit something and say, here we go, this is what we're looking for, but if you look at what Stratford did with their grant application, have you read their grant application, what they're doing? They had private and public partners that work with the town to be able to come into that building. So again, that's what we're trying to explore here. So again, you know, for me, I can't speak on behalf of Mayor Simmons. I cannot speak on behalf of her administration. All I can do is help develop the process to find an answer at the very end on where we need to go and how we issue an RFP that will be successful. That's the best answer I can give you, and it's the only answer I can give you right now. Maybe in 3-4 months from now, we may have a different answer on that because we've been able to explore all that stuff we're talking about here. Okay? But because we don't have all that information yet, this is the best I can do for you. Okay? And it may not be the answer you want to hear, but that's the answer you're getting from me tonight. All right, wait 1 second. I have one more gentleman right here. We're going to go right, we have one gentleman here, then I have him up front because he was the third. Yeah, you're next, and then him up front, and then I'll work my way back, okay?
Okay, Thomas, your opening remarks about 2 hours ago laid out the conditions on which you were working.
Mm-hmm.
And the conditions are, as you say, whether it can sustain itself going forward to carry itself. This is an internal bias against the community development center, community center, or laying waste of the building and leaving it as open land. And the reason it is because
say profitable.
You're talking about money.
I said it must be self-sustaining, yes. It's gotta be self-sustaining.
His argument is,
Yeah.
Well,
his
I'm
argument
saying
is,
it can only be self-sustaining if the city sees its part and its role
Yeah.
in a good, solid community.
And that may be the case in the very end, is the city may have to put money into it, but we need to figure out how do we get to that point and what the city needs to put in to the project,
You
right?
may have to let them know in your report that this is a factor in why you would either disagree with the community center or find it not in the best interest, because it doesn't meet that measurement, as well as the raw land. The city would not meet the measurement, it would be seen as an open space. So, we're at a deficit here for those who are supporting the community center, given the underlying strictures on which you're operating and which you enunciated earlier in the evening. And I don't think it's fair. They cannot compete with the other cash flows coming from the other uses. There's no way they can compete. So,
Well, and
how
that's
are you
what-
going to take that into factor and discount for that? That's
Well,
what
again,
we're
that's what we've been hired to explore all of that, to figure that out. So again, we'll be presenting a lot of the stuff back in January, and we're putting everything up on the website. Again, I'm gonna be very clear, we're not trying to hide anything here.
I understand.
So again, and I appreciate your comments. I know my community here is very passionate about the Glenbrook Community Center. But we've been hired to explore and try to figure out what are our best uses for this property. And everything is on the table right now, but if a community center in the end is the most viable option, then that's our recommendation. Okay? But that's not what we're at right now. We're not recommending anything. All we need to do is what is the community really looking for? And I know this is something maybe the city should have done 2 years ago. But this is what I'm saying, we're starting over. This is a fresh start. The city said, we want to hear from the community. How do we restart this process again? Engage everybody, hear from everybody, and then to move forward as we start to develop our options on this. Sure.
Mr. Matt, thank you very much. Dave Adams, what I want to say is that, everybody's exercising, there's 1,100 signatures towards a community center. Was the community center self-sustaining prior to it being shut down?
Yes.
I don't know, I'd have to go back and check, and I'm happy to check with that. So again, that's something we'd have to look into.
Do you think that 1,100 signatures gives you any ambiguity as to what the community wants to do with that building?
It says very clearly what the community wants with this.
Then what are we doing here?
Because this is the process the city has initiated to restart and to look at this. And I understand where you guys are coming from in terms of your passion for the community center.
But what I'm trying to get at is,
In the end, if that is what is financial, that's what our recommendation is, but we don't know that yet. I have to work through this process in an open and honest way to make sure that everybody, and I know what Stanford's like because they're always like, well, the fix is in. He's getting grip. Money's in that pocket.
because it is.
But it's not. I've been in government 23 years. I've never received a dime. I can tell you that now.
I'm not saying that you're necessarily receiving a take here.
Yeah.
I'm saying the fix is in.
But there is no
And
fix.
that's been the case on a number of different things across the board. Just last night at zoning, okay, they just made fee and lieu as of right. The fix is in.
And I recognize, listen, I appreciate your point. But
No, it's the same.
But we're starting, I wouldn't have taken this job, I wouldn't have responded to this RFP if I believed the fix was in on this, okay? Anybody who knows me during the Mayor Martin administration, I'm one of the most straightest arrows out there. You can talk to Angela or anybody else. I am very confident. Like I said, everybody knows my word is my bond on everything. And when I say there's no fix in on anything here, there's no fix in it. Like I said, I wouldn't have taken this job if there was. That's not, as my planning ethics would never allow that. So again, like I said, for you to say the fix is in, I respect your opinion.
Well,
But I'm telling you now, Evan and Suzanne, we would not be here listening to everybody, trying to get the comments out and to look through how do we actually work with the community and work with this RFP to figure this out. So, all right? It may not give you everything, but I'm happy, you can have my personal cell phone number.
No, that's
Right?
fine, that's fine.
And you
I
can
don't,
call me at any point.
need to control this, I'm not even from this community.
Right.
I'm here to support the community,
Yeah.
you know, but I've been hearing about this for 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's not a new thing. And everybody has told me since the very beginning, they want the same things that were there before it was shut down. They don't know why we're not just reopening it the way it was before. So I personally, myself, I don't understand where there's ambiguity.
The ambiguity right now.
And so that's me.
Okay.
I yield.
I want to make sure I get through this side over here, and then I'll, yes, Ray, I do see you.
Very quickly, two things.
Yep.
One thing is, it was mentioned already about the grant that we got back in the old days, about a couple of years ago, to get the thing fixed up and running again. It was a grant that it didn't have to be matched. It was a grant that they were going to give for looking into the feasibility and then the actual reconstruction of anything needed to be fixed. The second thing is, we're kind of remaking the wheel. We have one of the original board members here still, from the original Senate. What they did was, which is something that I actually wrote on there, that's why I wanted to say it out loud so that it makes the video. They had a 10 or 12 person volunteer board that ran the Senate. It didn't cost the city anything to pay them. I believe from what I remember, they had enough money for renting out the rooms, for renting out to different people. They actually had a custodian that they paid to actually keep the building clean. And it was self-sufficient. Now, to get the thing built, and like another gentleman said, I like what he said too, because if a little money did come out of the city's pocket for a community center, I don't see what the issue is. The city's never spent on a lot lesser things, I think, I'm thinking about that we're not that important in the general public's eye as a community center. I think whatever it had, the city has to put into it. If it's a couple $1,000 if they met short on the oil bill, it's still better to keep these kids off the street and give them something to do.
I appreciate that point. So, all right, Ray, representative, then we're going to go back because I missed you, and then Dave, I see you back there. And Sean, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I have light glare. I didn't recognize you. I'm sorry about that.
My name is Ray Downey. I live in Stanford. I was born here. I went to this community. My daughters went to the program at the community center in Ryan Jerry, which was very wonderful program. My cousins know that wonderful program. I know Tom Madden. I know he's an honest man. Right? I hope that everyone feels that way. He's told the truth to me on a variety of issues and items. I know him personally, and I support what you're doing, getting information. I asked one thing that I think everybody would want to know. If you find information from this community, not just today, but in the future, even though it may disagree with some of the things that the city wants to do or financially, so we present that information on behalf of the group as their feelings and opinions.
Yes, we'll present that. Okay. All right, sorry, I'm going back up front here because I missed, and I see you in the back, sir. Yes.
Me?
Yes, you.
Ronald Green, Stanford citizen, taxpayer, so I didn't come prepared for this. I found out about this very recently. It was my impression that, and maybe this is not correct, and I can see there's a process here, and I appreciate that, and I'm profoundly sorry for chewing your face off earlier, because
I get yelled at every weekend in every hockey rink across Connecticut. Trust me, it is nothing, no big deal.
I understand you're doing your job and all that, and as one engineer to another, I appreciate that. My concern is that I was told that the building was not habitable anymore. Okay, that is simply not true. And you and I both know that because you and I just talked and we agreed that you could open that building in a week and have people in there. Okay?
I didn't agree to that. That was your statement, sir. I said we have to go through and do an engineering study to figure out additionally what has to be done. based on an engineering study, I think it was about 5 years ago, Matt, sorry to throw you in here, but it was like 5 years ago, and to redo that, because the building hasn't been opened.
So you're making assessments based on no building
A
assessment?
5-year-old report, yes, that's what I have to go on, because that was in the last time the building was open.
Okay, so what was the, what was the number that came out of the report? Because 2 million is ridiculous, quite frankly.
So 2 million, I'm using that as a number. I say if I went in as a respondent to the RFP and I need to put $2 million to build out what I need to do, say as a innovation hub, to put in all my equipment for co-working, redefine everything out, stuff like that. The building itself, the previous 5-year study, I'm not gonna give you an exact number, but I know we have that, and I'm pretty sure we can put that out on the website, and you can take a look at that. Because again, I'm all about sunshine. If we had a previous report, it was issued, I know, as part of an RFP previously 4 years ago. They had that report in.
And I read it, like, it's 55 pages, and I read like 5 minutes of it on the way over here. And I saw a lot of things that are simply incorrect. Okay, and I know they're incorrect because I put in for an RFP to do that roof 20 years ago. And that roof's still under warranty because the RFP called for a 40-year warranty and it was done exactly 20 years ago. And somebody told me the roof's leaking and what are we going to do and all that. You should, if it was done according to the RFP from 20 years ago, it should be under warranty right now.
So if I'm responding to any RFP, I'm going to be asking for an engineering assessment before I step foot in that building and before I even bid on the building. So that may be one of the things that the city might have to do is to update that engineering, but they'll have to update that engineering report as part of this. So again, I have to put this all into a logical sequence for the city to.
You're dancing around.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is that, okay, so it seems to me like there's some willful neglect here on the part of the city for not throwing a tarp over a leaking roof that's under warranty. Okay? As a taxpayer, I don't like that.
So I can't comment if the roof is leaking. That is just hearsay right now.
Okay.
So again, you've now brought this to the attention.
Okay.
The director of operations sitting right here, he's heard you saying, if you have a leaky roof, I am pretty sure he's going to be making a phone call tomorrow to say, can we get someone to go check that to make sure it's not leaking? Because right now it's hearsay. So until we know for sure if that roof is leaking or not, I don't want to say it's leaking.
So from the 5-minute review I did of the 55-page report, it talks about the HVAC system being no good on the second floor. Okay, that's totally false. Okay, the lifespan for that should be about 20 to 25 years, and because it wasn't used for the last 4 years, that should not be included in the lifespan because the motors weren't run. You're an engineer. The motors weren't run, it wasn't.
I agree with you because I said probably one of the things that needs to be done for any type of RFP is issued is you're going to have to do a building conditions assessment before you open.
I will do it for free.
There you go, man. He's offering it for free. I'm not sure if you can do it for free because I know with the process, you do have to issue an RFP through the city to be able to respond back to it. And I'm pretty sure if you put $0 on an RFP and you respond back to it, I'm sure they will grant it to you. So, all right.
It says that the heating system, which is cast iron pipe, you're an engineer, you know as well as I, that should last about 100 years or so, and they're talking about replacing it. It's not that old, okay? There's a whole bunch of things here that really stink. And it's really, as a taxpayer, if they're not going to properly maintain the building that the city has, that the taxpayers are paying for and have entrusted to them, I have a big problem with that.
So again, the concerns are noted. That would be one of the things that we have to put into the sequence is if we're to restart the building, what actually needs to be done. And so again, I've got Suzanne and Evan writing down all the stuff here. I will be transposing it, I will be sending it over to Matt and saying,
I have a friend of mine, where is he, Joe? Where's Joe? Okay, he's willing to put together a 501c3, take control of the building, okay? I will do an assessment of the building, figure out what we need to do, okay? And then we can open the building like whenever all this crazy paperwork gets done. I'm from the private sector, we don't have to deal with all this nonsense.
I've worked in public sector. We handle a lot of paperwork, unfortunately, because that is the checks and balances to the taxpayers. We have to have that paper trail. So, all right, I'm going to move on. I'm sorry, ma'am, right here, and then I'm going to go to you, David, because she's been waiting here. So, and I see you, sir, in the back. Yes.
Stephanie, I live on Hamilton Avenue, and I just wanted to reiterate this whole like branding of this as like starting from ground zero or having a fresh start. It's terrible branding because, like we said, this has been going on for many years, and it's like it doesn't really make sense. Like there was a community center there, it was paying for itself, and then also you said that you don't really know anything about that community center or what was going on there. So it just seems like maybe the idea was like, oh, we're gonna get a fresh start and we'll hear from the community and we'll let them put stickies on a board, like they're in a high school history class or something. I feel like that's where you probably got the idea from.
Actually, no, this is actually standard planning. So when you go to your plan of conservation development that Stanford's doing right now,
Oh, do they let you put stickies on a board too?
yes, this is standard. This is typically for a lot of our public meetings. It allows us to get the comments.
So it feels kind of like very contrived and then like you're not actually really listening to the community. Like there was a community center there. It had lots of programming that lots of people in here enjoyed. And it feels very self-explanatory when you say, we want a community center. And there are community centers that exist in Stanford already that offer those types of things to those communities. So, yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that fact that we should maybe like work on how we're presenting it to the community. It shouldn't be a fresh start. There was a community center there. Let's see what they were doing and let's do it.
All right. So David, we'll go to you, and then Representative will go to you. Sorry.
State Rep David Michel, 146. I saw this exact same process in South End, and that's where it was a result of the South End Community Center. It said that over there was 4 options. The best version of each option was presented to Lindsay.
Yes.
My question to you is, in this case, because we're talking about the community center, at the end of this community process, you're going to have the same 6 options, despite if maybe only a few people are in favor of one or the other. Are you presenting all the best versions of all 6 options, and who is making the decisions on those 6 options? Who's speaking? Or I understand you can also tell Lindsay, well, public overwhelmingly prefer option 1, which means I don't know which number option it is. I hope it's option 1. But I'm trying to still not grasp.
So that's a good question you have there, Representative Shaw. So ideally what we were doing here is we're taking and synthesizing a lot of this information, and it may be taking the best of all the options. So if we have a community center, I'm just going to use that as an example. I'm not saying it's going to be a community center. If we have a community center, what functions are within that community center? Does it have, like Latham Wider, does it have immigrant services? Does it have CLC running a daycare program that is out of there? Does it have Pacific House for the homeless that are out of there? Does it have the Ferguson Library that is out of there? Does it have a dental clinic that is out of there? Does it have the police auxiliary that is out of there? Does it have a DMV component to it that is out of the Latham Wider? Or do we go to the model that we had over at Yearwood when we actually leased out Yearwood to the Boys and Girls Club, which is a partner now runs the Yearwood Center. So again, we're trying to explore what are the best options in order to move this property forward and take the best of all the different options from what we're hearing and to say, here's a recommendation.
But are you precisely pointing to one of the options as being a favorite choice by the community?
We don't know yet. And it may be an RFP is issued for, here's 3 different choices within the community, from a community center and someone who wants to start a 501c can submit for that RFP.
It may be an educational innovation hub. So I may have the guys that did the Stanford Innovation Center say, hey, we like this, we can start that up there. We don't know yet.
Then you're doing that work before you're presenting the 6 options, right?
So
you're putting the information together and presenting it to students, but I'm still not grasping exactly how a decision process goes on once you submit it back.
So with this right here, we still have to we're working through that decision sequence right now based upon all the information we're receiving tonight, the information we're going to receive from the survey, and then at the next meeting as we start to present, this is what we've heard. These are the top contenders and programs and everything else that is in there, because one of the things we did in Latham Water was program development. And so what did the community actually want to see at there? And then when they issued the architectural competition for it, the architects actually responded back, drawing into how you would actually use that program development. Again, that's part of what we'll be looking at here is what are the programs and everything else that is the best options within here. So again, there's no predetermination. So you're asking me, what's the final thing in the end? I don't know yet. All I can do is say we're making each stop along a decision pathway to figure out our best way on what the RFP will be.
So going back to the south end, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There were 4 options presented to a body. So then what happened there? Was a decision made?
No. All it was, so let me explain. This is a different process. The Latham Water, the redevelopment of Latham Water, Reimagine Latham Water was an architectural competition. So we went through and actually talked to everybody inside the building. We talked to the community. We actually developed a program matrix of what should go in there. And then that got included into an architectural competition document, the specs. And the architects responded back with design concepts for that building. That is different here. We're not doing that here. The goal here is to sort of manage an RFP process to figure out what do we actually issue in an RFP. That we don't know yet. That's why we're meeting here tonight. We're going to meet here in January. We're doing surveys to get as much input as possible. So again, I can't tell you what the end is going to be yet because I really don't know.
Okay. And just as a closing comment, I remember a couple of years ago when the other process was happening, talking to somebody that works in the mayor's office saying that if we don't get our project, we're not reopening that community center. So I just wanted to hear that.
Right. I don't know that. Again, that's hearsay for me, so.
I'm just saying what others confirmed, and that was my capacity to say
Okay.
public.
That's fine. All right. Sir in the back. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go ahead. I apologize, ma'am. I saw you there. Do you mind if I let him go? Because he's been like waiting. I've missed over like 3 times now. So.
Okay. Double story, 1999. They grew World Series in the fund, not World Series, because basically private someone upstairs that I would buy a bottle of fundraising. And go from Mississippi, 5% tournaments, before I $40,000. I was a silent fund, big group league, the ability to stand for several years. And I went to the board, and they said, can't do it, we'll never have the support we had in 1970 when we had a big World Series. So, I went to hockey rink and put Band-Aids on people when we were playing hockey. And I've been involved with the community since age 14 doing volunteer services. Big organizations sent us a 42-page manual of what we had to do. We set up 6 division heads within 2 months, recruited 25 subcommittees, and got the thing up and running. We still had to justify it to the city, Mayor Malloy's tenure, to put enough money into that stadium to satisfy the requirements of National Big Group. A lot more complicated than getting the community center up and running. We have a group of people that are willing to do a 501c3 organization, which is exactly what we did. We called Daybury and Howard. We've got the Latin America Foundation of State Incorporated. We did a fast tracking through the state capital, and also incorporated
let's keep it to what we're doing here, okay?
We are willing to set up a committee.
Okay.
We are willing to run that community center, reopen the thing. Don't worry about the future. If you do something in the future, fine. Get the daycare center started up again. Get the senior center there started up again. And get people who have gone there for 40 years to be in recovery back in there. They're paying $1,100 to $1,800 a month just for one room with a kitchen. And you're thinking you're not going to have proper funding within that building when it was sustaining itself for 40 years? Give us a break.
We're coming up to 9:30 here. We're only supposed to stay here for 9, so I'm going to take my last two comments right here, Representative, and then.
So you have to excuse my back, sorry. So 16 months ago, when I started to run for the Board of Representatives, I would knock on the door and the second thing out of my mouth was like, my name was, are you familiar with Glenbrook Community Center? And everybody except for one person said yes. And then the comments started. And they would say to me, oh, I went to school there. Well, my kids went through daycare there. I took exercise classes there. I did, this or that or whatever. What's going on with it? Where, why isn't it open? This and that. So I answered the questions as best as I could. And I told them, I said, I'm hoping that I'll work hard and try and see what we can do about, reopening it again and whatnot. And then it went dormant after we gathered our signatures 2 years ago and we stopped it from being sold to this builder that wanted to put 51 apartments over there, but with less parking. And that wasn't going to work for us because it would have conflicted with the neighborhood. There wouldn't people be parking on the street, would be a nightmare. So then when this came along, I said, oh, let's try and do something, get this involved. Because if we get rid of that, if that building is torn down or it's made into apartments that we don't need in Glenbrook, it's gone. We don't have a community center. But there are community centers around Stamford in different locations, the west side, south end, but we don't have, this is our only one here. And we want to save it. And most people that I spoke to while I was going around campaigning want to see it open as a community center.
Great, thank you. And our last speaker, yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Violet Clark. I live in Thurston Place, and I do know about the community center here. But I got a feeling it's already planned out what you all, because you keep saying we want to do. Now, I live in Thurston Place. They tearing it down. Those World War II veterans' homes, and they sent a guy up to raise them. But in the meantime, he manipulated everything and built a whole lot of cheap housing around. And are you connected with the ones that are going all over Connecticut, building these little $10 houses for $200,000? I want to know that.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
I want to know, are you connected with the builders that's trying to take all the old buildings down in Connecticut?
I have no affiliation with any builder. I
It's
work for DFJ.
It's got to be somebody, because they're all downtown, they're all over Connecticut.
Yeah.
These are cheap buildings, and that's why you all got a place for another big building for that community center. Because where I live, I've been there for 20 years, and it was from those projects, those housing authorities built those in 1970 something.
Yeah.
They were 79 years old, I remember, because this house.
Yeah,
And they
our
tear
firm
them
is.
all down and not worried about the people that live in there. So this is why I say the community center is an old place, and you all want to tear everything old down.
We are past our time. It is a brief question, less than 30 seconds I will take it, but I promise the pastor we will be out of here at 9.